perspectives from a program director and associate program director. So really excited about our time with you all today. And to tell you a little background, so my name is Dr. Cunningham. I'm Psychiatry Residency Program Director for Community Health Network's General Psychiatry Residency Training Program. We're a community-based program. Small, we have 4. We're hoping to expand with 6 this upcoming academic year for each class, actually the next recruitment season. Really proud of the residents that we have there, our committed faculty, the likes of some graduates that have stayed on, and just amazing, and really happy for our time here today to share whatever information you can glean from what we discuss.
Yes, and I'm Dr. Areef, Kassam, the Associate Program Director at Community Health Network, and I had the great honor and privilege of being part of the inaugural class of our program and seeing it through its inception all the way forward. I was part of the first chief resident, got to actually come and do this workshop with Dr. Cunningham as a chief resident, and now very grateful to be a faculty member and the Associate Program Director here as well.
So as we get started, what are the objectives of what we're going to be doing today? We want to acknowledge and abide by NRMP match rules. We thought it's really important that you understand that there are rules that the program has, so to make sure that you're treated fairly, ethically, and you know when you can say, hey, I don't want to answer that question, and it's totally appropriate. So it also is good for a sniff test for the programs and how they operate. So I think cueing into those are really helpful. And identify characteristics that make a strong application. So we'll do some hands-on with abbreviated application that you get to be on the other end. What does it look like if you were from the program point of view going through applications? We'll list interview tips for a successful interview day. Just having done a lot of these by now, just can try to cue you in on some really good ways to hopefully make you stand out. And then we're going to have you, again, just kind of the flip table there, you prepare a mock rate order list. So when you're having to weigh different factors, what comes to light and when you're creating your rank order list. And so hopefully it should be fun, and we're going to get to interact, and you'll be able to see it from a different lens. All right, so first our overview, we're going to go through the rules of the game, application review, through what the application process is, interview day tips, and again, rank order meeting activity. So first is the NRMP Code of Conduct, and it's really important to know that program directors take this very seriously. If not, they should, and that is a should. So there are rules, just as far as on your end for match rules, there are for programs. And I think it's important that you understand these again, that if you see somebody deviating from these, I think that should be a sign for you, a flag, right? First one there, accept the responsibility for the actions of all recruitment team members. So as a program director, this is probably one of my most challenging, right? So we always go through the do's and don'ts, but ultimately you've got to make sure you have very well-informed faculty and residents that are involved in the interview day, that they're not, even with well-intentions, asking any questions that are not appropriate, because there are still state and federal rules that apply, as well as match, because this is a job. You are getting paid, it's a position. Maintain ethical behavior during recruitment. NRMP really focused, of course, programs, maintain ethical practices when reviewing applications, but also interview day. So one of the areas they slowed down and added was with the virtual interview season. They specifically stated if an interview is going to be recorded, you should be told in advance, and there should be written consent. So slowing down with that one, again, if you see that somebody's recording, not asking, not following, that should be a flag for you. So they added that to the language. Refrain from asking illegal questions. So it is not okay to ask about if you're pregnant. It's not okay to ask about race. It's not okay to any of those questions that you think about for normal interviews apply here. Marital status, not okay. So think about those. Those are probably going back to number one. Some of the time I have with my residents, it's just like, maybe some casual conversation might be, oh, do you have a partner or where? And I have to make sure that we're not asking those questions, okay? Fully disclose pertinent information to all applicants. So you should be informed of what the program curriculum looks like, not that there's not changes. What's the application process? What are they looking for in applicants? All of this should be available to you. And I think most of the time people have that one covered. Respect an applicant's right to privacy and confidentiality. So we cannot ask you where else you're going to rank, who else you're ranking with, who are you interviewing with. That is a match violation. You're supposed to be able to freely, now you can tell the program that it's coming down to 1 or 2, or you want to stay in the state of Indiana or Illinois, right? But we cannot ask that of you. So that one is a definite known one in the PD world, not that sometimes it doesn't happen. So watch for that one, but you do not have to tell a program if you plan to rank them or where. Decline to require second visits. So we cannot require second visits and say that they impact the rank order list. That was relatively new. And I think that's a strong one for an addition, just so we equal and level the playing field. Because that's a lot of burden on you. Do all the interviews and you go to second ones and you go to virtual fair, like, geez, how many hours in a day, right? And the cost. So that is not supposed to be a factor to take into consideration. Limit post-interview communication. Don't be surprised if there are programs that do not contact you at all after interview day. So really, NRMP has moved forward with really trying to emphasize that so that there's not any undue coercion. Simultaneously, they say programs are free to express their interest in an applicant, but then they say don't do it with undue coercion. So it's kind of a little double speak, I'll be honest with you, from a PD lens. But just because a program doesn't contact you after does not mean that they're not interested. Okay, they may be on the pendulum that they just decided, well, our program did this. We're not going to do post-interview communication. So there's like no feeling that people are reading into messages, and that's where we landed. Rank with integrity. So when going through the ranking, to train your faculty, your residents about bias and what that looks like. And so we can be making the best rank order list that we're basing that on the mission of the program, quality of applicant, as far as their application, the interview day, that we're looking at things objectively so that we rank with integrity. Any questions about the NRMP code of conduct? Was that pretty clear? So again, that's from the program's point of view. So if some of these start going off and people are asking you uncomfortable questions, know that you do not have to endure that. Again, I think it just gives you some flags about the program too.
If you do encounter a situation like that, how do you kind of politely deflect it, I guess, or kind of redirect them?
Yeah. So how about Dr. Kassam, if I would say, we're in the interview day. Hey, so Areef, can you tell me more? Do you have a family? Where are you coming from?
Yeah, and what I would say, sorry to break that thing, because I've seen it. To be honest, I've replied both ways before too. And again, it's up to you as an applicant to determine how you want to respond there. And so some people do choose to respond freely and just know that's your choice there. But when asked that before, I would definitely say, I'm very excited to be interviewing for the program, and my main focus is, wanting to make sure that this is a good fit with me for this program, and really looking to our curriculum to make sure that this is in line with my career goals.
Yeah, so more of a side step, and then know that you can contact the NRMP. And I think that's going to be more than like, normally we talk about direct and feedback in the moment. You can give that, and that would be supportive. But there's also, geez, you know this about the program, geez, there's a reporting mechanism. So you don't have to address in the moment, just as an FYI, okay?
All right, team, we're going to get into our interactive portion now of our workshop. So I know it says break into groups of 4 or 5, but just with the amount of people here, we're thinking of breaking it into 5 groups of 3. And actually, wait, come here, there, 3, 6. 3, 6, 9, 12. So actually, can we do 4 groups of 3? And our activity today, you all are going to be becoming resident review committees for programs. So we have a type of program that you're going to be in. I really want you to think about that as you're going through applicants. So there's going to be 6 different applicants that you're going to be asked to review. And think about what type of program that you are when you're considering how to consider some of these applicants here. They're going to be from a wide range of backgrounds, experiences, different things on their applications. And from this, there's going to be 6 applicants. We want you all to choose 4 that you're going to choose to interview and bring forward for the next step here. We're going to come back after 15 minutes. We're going to do a group discussion. Just who did you eliminate and why? And really think about, again, because something we're going to talk about a little bit later is about mission match. So think about who you are as a program and why that led to the decision that you made for choosing which applicants you did.
Perfect. And on the paper, so this one is just a free piece of paper, is the program. So start there. And then the laminated sheets, just know that there's front and back. Oh, you got it?
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, do we need to do anything with the Zoom, our Zoom colleagues? Anything help there?
I'm working on that.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna share the files.
Awesome. Can we, I think I labeled it part 1, part 2, so just part 1.
Okay.
What if we go like
You can upload the file or you just have the file.
I just-
You can upload the file.
To what?
All right, can people on Zoom hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right, sorry about that little detour there. I'm going to post a link right now in the chat, and this is going to be a PDF copy of what everybody here is looking at. Once everybody has this open, I'm going to give you a little bit to get to that. Then I'm going to send you out into breakout rooms of 3 people. How does that sound to everyone? Says you need access. Thank you. Yeah, sorry, this is very last. Okay. Anyone with the link?
Feel like these two.
Let's try this.
Volunteered for a walk.
Is that working?
Yeah,
Can I get
it
a? Okay, great. All right, once everybody has that pulled up, then let's go ahead and get into breakout rooms. Let's see, there are.
Everyone's activity.
All right.
That's what I'm talking.
Everybody's just been invited to a breakout room. You should be able to meet up soon and then go over this information. Feel free to call me back if you have any questions. Thanks. Sorry for the delay. Hi, Dr. Bussey. Notice that you joined us a bit early for this presentation. How are you today?
I don't know which one exactly correlates, so.
Okay, I've got this one unmuted too. And we've got 23 seconds. And you broke it.
Yeah, I think I broke it. I'm so sorry. You can unmute this one? Oh, you can hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Perfect.
I don't know what that did, but I'm sorry.
We got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Perfect.
All right, everyone, welcome back in and welcome everyone from the breakout rooms virtually as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go through our different groups. So just to go back to our assignment, each of you are a different type of program, and that was something for you all to consider as you review these 6 applicants. Through reviewing these 6 applicants, you're really thinking about the mission, the vision match, and what type of program you are, and choosing 4 of those that you want to bring on-site or virtually on-site for an interview here. So why don't we go through, if it's okay with you all, we can just kind of go through the different groups. If you could share what type of program you are, and then who are the 4 people that you decided to bring in to interview and why. So we can start with you all.
So we are a community mental health center located in like an urban setting, but with multiple sites across the
Sorry, can I have you just talk a little louder?
Oh, of course. We are an urban program with multiple community sites. We have a heavy emphasis on clinical skill development, also really emphasize engaging with advocacy and underserved populations. And we also have a required quality improvement project as part of our curriculum.
All right. So the applicants that we decided to interview, does everyone have the same applicant numbers?
Yes.
So we wanted to interview 4. The one with personal disclosure, he seemed like a very solid student all around, glowing letters of recommendation in psychiatry. His PhD noted strong clinical skills and good academic performance. So overall, a strong applicant. We also wanted to interview this one, the applicant number 6. Also a strong applicant, volunteered at 3 clinics, so we thought that fit with the program's mission for advocacy, proven interest in psychiatry with PsychSIGN and ATA involvements. They were 1 year off schedule in medical school, but explained it well in personal statements, and Ms. B had great feedback and comments. So we also wanted to interview them. And then we wanted to interview. We wanted to also interview number 5. Again, overall a pretty strong applicant, like a little bit lower CK than step 1, but top, like the letters were really good. They're the top 10% of all students ever worked with. And we noted clinical skills and great feedback from attendings. So they had a little bit of trouble in courses, but no fails and did fine on testing. So we're not concerned about that. But that this would be strength skills. And then our last applicant, this is one we had the hardest time with, figuring out number 4 to the interview. We decided to go with applicant number 1, and what it came down to there was they did an audition at this program and did well in the audition. So there were some problems in the application, like spelling mistakes in the personal statement. And they were taught the bottom quartile, which the program wanted strong clinical skills. But because they auditioned there and the residents got along with them really well and they got some feedback on the audition, we thought this student would probably be a better fit because they've already proven that they're.
We'll talk about auditions in a little bit. Auditions are essentially the longest interview that you can consider for a program, right? And so be mindful of that as you're considering, where you may want to be, programs of interest, because that's certainly. Thank you so much. We can move to this team over here.
So our program is a research emphasized program. It is and I'm going to put my pinky up, an academic program at a top NIH funded institution. So all residents at this program are required to have an original research project with research mentors. Basic clinical skills and rotation requirements need to be completed, and the PGY3 and PGY4s 40% and 90% respectively are dedicated to work on research projects. So very research heavy.
And the people we chose for this was number 2, the one with the research, because we felt that they fit our school very well. Number 4, the one with personal disclosure, which is, I think all 3 of those just really liked them, what stood out in their application. And then number 1, the one the residents liked because again, they auditioned and did well. And number 3, the one with advocacy. There were some concerns that on one rotation, the attending noted that this person struggled in the team as they tried to overpower it. So we were all concerned about that, but then we took a step back, tried to re-recognize what institution we were at and really support the student. And we thought they seemed very, very strong academically and other ways.
Got the sign, that's perfect. I love it. And remember, you know, invitation to interview show mutual interest, and that's a time for both program and applicant to see if this is a good fit. So we'll be talking about that process there as well, but you know, really a time to get into questions. Over here.
Okay, so we're at a private community program, community program located in a large private hospital and clinic system. Residents learn advanced clinical skills through Q4 24-hour call. PGY3s and PGY4s still participate in call. Minimal research opportunities and learning primarily through layered learning teams on the unit. Broad psychopathology exposure and work primarily with underserved populations.
So we went with number 6, somebody that we liked, strong scores, and has had great feedback on the MSPE. So it seems like he or she could work well in teams. They did have an extra year off, but it was well explained, so it seemed like a non-issue at that point. And volunteers in free clinics, so we're considering also the underserved populations that they're probably accustomed to and maybe want to work with. Next, we got number 5, the one with the gap. So this person, the first thing we saw was that the score dropped, but we decided to consider other things this person would fit for our program. So the person has been a high school chemistry teacher for 12 years. So big shift in life goals, but still obviously dedicated to pursuing this. And has worked with different populations in the past extensively, so children from whatever school system that they were in. Also, top 10% of students ever seen in a neuro review. So that's good. We're gonna want some strong working people for our, seems like a good amount of call, especially PGY3 and PGY4. So people that work well and work hard is somebody that we're gonna want. Next, we have for the one with personal disclosure. We didn't necessarily see the personal disclosure as a negative, potentially positive, we don't know, but we didn't see it as a standout negative. And everything else seems pretty well-rounded, decent scores, volunteer work, and does well in clinic. So it seems like a well-rounded person, didn't really jump out at very strongly in one aspect, but has a bunch of decent foundation in all of that. And lastly, we have the ones that the resident liked. So as stated before, it's always nice to know that this person can fit in with the environment that we're in, with the coworkers that are here. They have a good amount of volunteer experience, and has great feedback on letters of recommendation. The personal statement has multiple spelling mistakes, which is not a good look, but in the context of everything, I think we could overlook it right now. And considering with all of these, we didn't really put that much emphasis on having the highest scores or so much research, as we thought that this would be more of a program that's focused on treating the underserved and working with that population. So
Excellent.
You all are doing so well with the assignment there. I appreciate it. And last group over here.
So we're a large institution with 10 candidates per class. And we focus on clinical skills with heavy emphasis. And we also require research.
So we went with the personal disclosure, previous group wasn't necessarily negative, especially with second therapy and emphasis on and they've obviously had experience with children with autism spectrum disorder, so they're patient the skills already. We also like the residents liked, but they did have spelling mistakes and their scores were on the lower side. It looked like they've done well in their rotation here. And just given their work and volunteer experience, I think that the skills are excellent. And they will do well with that. Oh, yeah, sorry.
And then the last two, went similar to like a lot of the other groups. We just felt like they had, again, good clinical skills that also made them that they were looking for. And then they had experience in psychiatry that were involved in like PsychSIGN. So that experience, and then finally the one FP6 one again, a lot of experience in psychiatry, had great feedback. Yeah, so that's pretty much it.
Awesome, thank you, everyone. Any overall thoughts, or I heard some thoughts with this over here. That was hard, going through all this. Any other thoughts or feedback?
For as much as the emphasis that we all place on the step scores, for me, it wasn't the most important
Right.
thing.
No, and Dr. Cunningham and I can't speak for every program out there, but knowing where trends are going and how things are there, it's much more about that overall outlook. The main focus of this activity here is about mission match, right? And that's where we see applications, that's where we see residency, process going. Not that scores aren't looked at and taken apart there, but it's much more about, is this individual going to be able to come into our program, and are we going to be able to provide the right resources structure that they're going to be able to provide and be the best psychiatrists that they are for our community. And so it's really thinking much more broadly about all these other factors there. And so, yes, scores can still be looked at here, but I would say things are changing from where it was 10, 15 years ago, when that was kind of the only benchmark with that. Great observation. I want to make sure we'll definitely come back to our groups in a little bit, but just some application highlights. And these are some of the things you all noted already as well. Grammar and spelling, definitely slow down, take the time to review some of that there as well. As you all noted, grammar and spelling is not going to cut you out for most programs of getting a chance to interview or coming back there, but it is something that can be noticed, right? So if this is an opportunity that you guys have to proofread, to go through, it's just an extra area that you can polish, and that way it's not something that gets noticed or an eyebrow raised or anything like that. Oftentimes programs have hundreds and hundreds of applications that they go through. So if you really want them to focus on the great quality of your applications, because we all have implicit bias, and so something with the grammar or spelling area just could possibly, detract from some of the great things that you all are doing. Mission match. When you're going through some of these applicants, an individual that has no interest in research whatsoever applying to a program that requires 90% of their fourth year of research, it's probably not going to be a good fit mutually, right? That's not going to be a great program for that individual based on their interests, their values. So something to really consider when you're applying to programs, is this a place that I kind of, curtailed my application, curtailed where I want to go in life? And are we going to have a mutual good fit for training and eventually becoming the psychiatrist that I want to be there too? I would say be forthcoming. That's something, Dr. Cunningham and I, we spent hours and hours going through the application because you're all doing amazing, amazing things. And we don't always have the time to go and look at, why was there a 2-year gap there, right? And gaps aren't necessarily a bad thing. I think we're moving away from some of the traditional model of, 4 years undergrad, 4 years med school, 4 years residency. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but people choose to go different routes, paths to get where they are. But give yourself credit for that. Help us understand how you got to where you are now, because we want to see your journey. And understanding that journey is just going to put you in a better space and forthcoming with some of those aspects there. Review your personal statement. That same goes back to that grammar and spelling there. And really great question earlier. what's wrong with personal disclosure? Nothing necessarily is wrong with personal disclosure, but I would ask, to consider it's not an either or, but what's the intent? The whole purpose of the application is for us to get a better understanding for you. So think about how you're utilizing that personal disclosure to emphasize your career, your path, your journey, because it can be a really beautiful, meaningful thing that got you to where you're at. So just keep that in mind, right? It's not an either or, positive or negative. Just think about what your intent is with that. And like noted earlier too, just remember that, if you are disclosing and self-disclosing there, that may be something that could be brought up in your interview there. So I would definitely say if that's not an aspect of your personal journey that you feel comfortable talking about, that probably wouldn't be one that. So just kind of keep that in mind whenever you're going through that journey process. LORs, definitely, and when you think about how many applications there are in LORs, by and large, a lot of LORs, are quite outstanding for applicants there. Not to say that there aren't sometimes outliers in either end there, but you do want to get people that can speak directly to your clinical experience. Sometimes we get letters that talk about, they know you from a personal journey, or they may have worked with you on some other project. And that may be, a letter that could add there. But what I want to go and focus on is how did this individual interact, and to be able to get credence and understanding to, are you going to be a great resident for us here? So just consider what type of letter that they're going to be able to write for you. And also, regardless of where they come from, it's not necessarily 4 letters from psychiatry, because we want well-rounded residents. We don't want you only to be good at psychiatry and not do great work in neurology or internal medicine. So that is equally, if not sometimes more meaningful, when I have an internal medicine physician writing a letter saying this was an amazing medical student, they performed at the level of an acting intern, and I would welcome them to do internal medicine if they're not doing psychiatry. That's such a meaningful letter there, because it shows that understanding of all of medicine, that holistic aspect there too. We already talked about acknowledging and explaining gaps. And give credit where credit is due. You all are truly doing some of the most amazing things. I think every year the bar just keeps getting upped and upped for all the great community service and engagement, advocacy, passion that you're bringing to our field. Make sure to give yourself credit for it. There's room to kind of put comments about more understanding of what you did, because sometimes it's hard to tell if it's just just the name of the place where you may have done a volunteer experience, when maybe you did 5 hours a week for 4 years, and give yourself that credit, because that's meaningful. And that looks different from a one-day volunteer at a food pantry, which is great, meaningful work, versus an individual that spent 4 years developing a lasting relationship of volunteerism and advocacy there. And just like we mentioned earlier, anything mentioned on the app is open for questioning. So just be mindful of that when you're sharing. And it's not a bad or a good thing there, but just be prepared for questions and answers. Application numbers. So these are updated based on the last match by the numbers of 2020. So just some of the averages there for psychiatry specifically. Step 1, 227, and step 2, CK 241. Those are for allopathic disease. And the complex is 527 and 555 there. Again, like mentioned before, it's not necessarily that these are as emphasized as they were in the past, but they are looked at. And be thinking about, if there is any information about average, if you're looking at Frida or some of the other ones where they post some of the average scores there, just be thinking about what some of their average applicants or average resident may typically look like. Applications, and this varies, and you're going to hear vastly different numbers from your peers, from your med school, from different individuals there. So this number here is not necessarily what I'm telling you to do. This is actually based on a study that was done as part of a workshop from a conference that Dr. Cunningham attended called the Association why am I Directors of Residency Training. Okay, thank you, Dr. Cunningham.
Gotcha.
With this, when they looked at aggregates of various different programs, how many programs each of those different medical students applied to, it was about 30 to 40 if that applicant did not have any quote unquote red flags or limitations in their application. some may, that may be plus or minus for how many you decide, you're the best judge and gauge of what your application has. So just a number to kind of consider as you're going through there. Interviews, just remember that a lot of interviews may have night befores, and we are living in this virtual world still, so I think that may be something that we continue to see in years forward. A lot of them have incorporated night before virtual aspects or even the day of. So just be mindful of that when your schedule is there for rotations and whatnot. It's not necessarily, if you can't attend because of a conflict, that it's the worst thing there, but you want to make sure you're putting your best foot forward and showing interest and intent, right? And so if that's something that you can make, available, I would highly encourage it. Rank, again, this is not necessarily what, you need to do to be able to have a successful match or rank there. Some people, get their first choice, but what the studies show, that you need 8 to 10 continuous ranks to have a greater than 90% chance of matching there. Again, it can be plus or minus, just depends on the application. All right, in terms of scouting it out, these are great aspects to consider to go through. So in terms of getting information about the different programs here, so ERAS, of course, is going to have a lot of the bulk of the administrative aspects there. Recruitment events, you get to have one-on-one interaction with the different residents, faculty, Frida, as in upper levels in your medical schools or even current residents, mentors, program websites are huge. You get to really understand the mission from those websites. It's going to be your best gauge there. It's something I would strongly consider as you're looking for a good visit there. Online forums, I know they're all out there. I know they can be heavily attended. I would say just take it with caution, right? There can be pearls of wisdom in there, but there can also be serious detractors there. So I would just be cautious as going through there, but certainly something that I can consider for consideration. And now you wait. You sent your applications in, and now we're looking at that invitation for.
Yeah, so make sure that you schedule that date as soon as possible. So your coordinators are like ready to go, and it is noticed if you're late. So that just that beginning of this cycle, all of these things are monitored, are looked at. Was it the end of the world if you waited, 3 days? No, but when you get it, try to be on it. That just shows that interest, that professionalism as you're walking through the door. Practice interviews. A lot of programs do behavioral-based questions. Be ready to go. Probably one of the most off-putting from a program director when I say, tell me about yourself. To me, everybody should have their elevator speech that you're ready to go. And when an applicant looks back at me and like, what do you want to know? I want to think in my head, you've already told me. Okay, so just be thinking about that practice. I know it may feel kind of corny, but just try it anyway. Be kind, cordial, and all communication at all events. When how you treat the waiting staff at a restaurant, how you interact with other staff members when you see them in the hallway, how you treat the coordinator for sure, right? So just recognize all of these events in the interview. You are being watched. In the virtual world, if there's a breakout room, and yes, you can take a break, use the restroom, but get back on there. There are people who are assigned and taken away from clinical care to be available to you. So make sure to lean in and make sure that that's just another part of the interview process. If you need to cancel, inform the program as soon as possible. It's one of those things that psychiatry residency program directors were a relatively small number of individuals that are pretty well connected in different ways, and that can lead a negative reputation to yourself or your program. So be sure if you need to cancel, things happen, but do it as soon as possible. Review the program highlights. So be prepared for those questions, but please don't ask me a question that's like clearly on the website in grave detail. That's just troubling. That's a headache. So make sure that you're reviewing, and I understand there's tons of them. But the night before, review the website, know the program that you're going to, have your list of questions that's tailored to the program. And there may be some standards that you're asking every program, that's fine, right? but there needs to be some that recognize that you know the program you're applying to. And please and thank you. So please, just those go a long way, just being gracious and being kind. I know that sounds silly right now, but I think sometimes anxiety gets in the way with individuals, and sometimes they may not be their best selves because they're focused on what's going to come out of their mouth during the interview and how they're going to present. That some of those basics as humans are really important for program directors. Okay. And after interview communication, email or card, it doesn't matter. You do not have to. I will say though that as much as you don't have to, from a program director point of view, I do notice. I mean, I have to be honest, right? Yeah, and like especially if somebody I'm like super excited and then there's like zero communication. Sometimes my heart's like, aw, maybe it was only one way, like, right? So I'd love this, and you don't have to, but I know this is double speak, but I'm just telling about my personal opinion. What if you don't hear anything back? Totally fine, because the limits on post-interview communication. So you write back, Dr. C, that was the most awesome interview ever, and we had good food last night. The residents are awesome. I really like your program. If I don't get back with you, don't be crushed. That's because those limits. But as a program director, I've expressly stated this during our interview too. Like, I'm not going to reach out. We're going to do no post-interview communication. So don't let your head get the best of you. And letter of intent, this is again, not obligatory. I do think it's good from a program point of view. This is another one of those not required, don't have to do. But I would say it doesn't, I haven't adjusted the match like rank order list, but it is something that is noted with the residents and faculty when we get that. So again, optional, not required, but I think some programs do appreciate receiving those.
Team, we had another second breakout here, but I think, we had such good discussion for this first one. So I want to make sure we have a couple of time for questions too. So the second part of the workshop was just going to be, we pass out, we invited them to interview, what's it like, and then looking to rank there too. So happy to discuss that afterward if anyone does have more questions there. But I'd like to open it up for just a couple of minutes of questions if individuals have.
Well, thank you both for speaking on this. It's like it's on a lot of fronts. Like it's just sort of been a black box for me with this whole process. So this is very helpful. I guess this is more for Dr. Kassam, because you've seen your personal residency program from the beginning to end. But, what are like some of the challenges you face, and what are kind of the improvements you can during your time, I guess, watching it grow?
Absolutely. And talking about my specific, our specific program, or just
yeah. But I mean, I guess more broadly, but
yeah. No, absolutely. And I can definitely let my personal students influence this. Talking broadly though, I think, something that was important for me looking at that mission match is resident voice and having active engagement in my learning process and how my training undergoes was something so important to me. And so coming to this program, Dr. Cunningham has truly been the most amazing mentor and created a wonderful program. I'm just truly grateful that I was able to do that there. And being part of that training is something that I think is incredibly important. We talk about adult learners, and that looks different, when you're in high school and learning there versus an adult learner. An adult learner takes responsibility of their learning process. And so I really wanted a place that was open and welcome for me to have that space and do so. So I think, I could go on and on about all the different changes there, but I just think looking for a program that has that similar resonance with what they're looking for residents is just something I would strongly advocate for from a personal opinion.
And I would mention, just from my point of view, just speaking with other program directors, this goes back to mission match and where you are as a person. So I think a new program, and I can talk about our individual program, I just feel very privileged to have that opportunity with our residents. But I am somebody who I like innovation and I like change. And when going through with a new program, and now we've got, I wonder how long we can say new, but I never want to stop changing. Right? I like performance improvement. And we see applicants, we want to make sure nothing's gonna change. And I'm thinking, oh, you are amazing, but this is not a great fit. And I would say that if you're kind of a pioneer, you got great residents, recruited beyond my wildest expectations. Because specifically, we got individuals who were ready to be pioneers, they were flexible, they wanted to get engaged at a ground level. So a new program isn't a bad thing. Honestly, it's about like, is that the fit? Now, if you want something on the opposite end, and you know, a program that's been around for the span of time, and then it has its own headaches, like how often can we change things, right? When they, and not every program, but when things have become so static, like this is the way we've done it, because we've always done it. And sometimes that might give you, you know, some feeling of comfort if you don't like change and geez, I don't want, you know, there's enough going on that I don't want to have, you know, an X factor. Know that about yourself. That goes back to mission match when you're asking about a program. Even those, besides community, research, academics, urban, rural, suburban, that's another one of those factors to consider. So good question.
And I didn't mean it as like, what's wrong with your program?
No,
It was
I
just-
know.
I was just
Didn't
like,
take it
no, I
out.
was
Yeah.
just genuinely curious, like
Yeah.
how it's grown.
Yeah. No, not at all, not at all.
I have a question about like your process of actually, like this process or from our doing it. I noticed like it described like how the personal statement was, how that message was, and the letter recommendation. When you're actually reading letter recommendation, reading the personal statement, does your process go through like a series of steps where you have like initial people reading and then they mark the little notes on the personal statement and then
Great
you're
question.
the one who sees this little box and not the whole personal statement?
It's gonna be different in different programs, how they do it. We've gotten our group narrowed down to a list now of 4 individuals that do the work. And that is very welcome because it just needs to be Dr. Kassam and I. So we've got 4 individuals and we make sure we do breakout rooms, we have, so we're aligned with the mission, we have an Excel spreadsheet that we're looking. And we unmute for integrator reliability, to make sure we're on the same page. And so we're looking at each of these and we use just kind of more seasoned individuals who've gone through this, that while we celebrate divergent thinking, we truly do, we want to make sure that we're each consistent with our mission match. So we go through, if there's any questions, we have you ask questions with each other. Now that can be different at different programs. This is what we found and posted application reviews in the past, and to feel the most comfortable with our interviewers. And it's fun to deal with other people too, you know? Is that helpful?
Hey team, I know we're over time. Dr. Cunningham and I are happy to stay back a little bit and answer any other questions that you have. I don't know if this is a break time or not, but happy to do so.
Well, thank you. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thanks so much.